Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and here we are on a very mild June evening in my garden. And anyway, quick update. A couple of things have really changed in my life, and that is that we are being allowed to go back to work on Friday, this coming Friday, which is incredible news. And thank you so much for all the people that sent in donations. It really did go a long way to restore my faith in human nature, because I will be honest with you, I was getting a little worried there. We were getting, well, we're 3 months. We are on 3 months without work. And anyway, so that issue certainly is temporarily resolved, and hopefully there won't be a huge spike in new cases or hospitalizations, and that there actually hasn't been very many hospitalizations in this particular area. But you know, I'm thinking if my theory is correct, and this is just a regular flu season, this is over and done with until we start getting into December, January and February of next year. We have now got tons of ultraviolet around from the sun, and of course people are getting a good boost to vitamin D, which of course has been implicated in this whole issue. And so yeah, we'll see what happens. The other great thing is that I now have a dog, and he's arriving tomorrow morning at 8:30. And it's kind of interesting how this all came about, because you know, I've always felt that my next dog would find me. Okay, wouldn't that when I know I was looking, but I put that out into the universe. And anyway, there is a woman who lives about I don't know, 6 doors down from me, and she does some landscape work. We've spoken briefly before in the past. I know she's got a couple of dogs. I didn't realize she had 3. She has some horrible health issues. She has arthritis. She lives in a 2-bedroom apartment, and of course she has been in lockdown for the last 3 months, and she has 3 dogs. They're all fighting with each other, and this poor lad is getting the worst of it. He's been in a sort of, you know, one of these travel cages most of the time, and so you can imagine it's a difficult situation. And anyways, I come home one evening, and there she is standing in my driveway talking to my neighbour over the back fence. So we get chatting, and she tells me her plight and that she has this dog, and I said, well, hey, I just happen to be looking for a dog. And anyway, it is a Boxer American Bulldog cross, 18 months old, had all its shots. Anyways, I am looking forward to it. My last dog was a Boxer, and I love that breed. You know, it's the face only a mother could love, but I'll tell you, they are a real friendly dog. So I'm looking forward to it, and I may do a little clip tomorrow. We're going to go on a hike. I think it's going to be our first outing, just to sort of get to know each other and what have you. And yeah, I may take my video camera along and give you a few shots of my new companion. Now, she has given me this dog, but she's in dire straits. Yeah, she's having a tough time. She hasn't been able to do any kind of work at all. So I'm going to give her the money that I would have given to, you know, a pound for a rescue dog, because of course there's costs involved. You know, there was surgery, all the shots are up to date, this kind of stuff. So that is where your donations are going to be going, is for my companion. So you will get to know that money has been shared with another member of the community, and it will actually do real benefit in her pocket. And so thank you all very, very kindly. And with that, let's take a quick peek around the garden. A lot has changed. Okay, here we go. So as I said, I've been transplanting the lettuce, and absolutely delicious. They're probably 2 or 3 times the size of when you last saw these. So the heat has really made a huge difference. Tomatoes are in, they've settled in, and they're looking pretty good. They'll be starting to flower fairly shortly. And these are onions. Now, I know you buy onion sets at the hardware store or the feed mill. Now this is what they look like when you start them from seed, and this season they'll be growing into a small bulb, and that will be my onion sets for next year. Here's some black-eyed Susans, and not quite sure what they are, but there's some kind of flower. Here's some marigolds, they'll be going in shortly. And I'll tell you, the strawberries, it's been a fight to get out of here early enough to beat the chippies. I may have to put some wire on the side of my greenhouse to keep the little devils out, but we're flowering like crazy, and I'm now coming out here and finding a few ripe strawberries every day for my cereal in the morning. Peppers flowering, they won't be long. And of course basil. Basil loves that spot for some reason. The yellowing off leaves are the ones that sort of got shocked when they came outside, but you can see there's some pretty good new growth coming out on that plant. Now you can see the difference between the two plantings of beets. These ones will be quite soon. I'll be getting a root off those. And the grapevine, this one's not doing as well as the other one. I do have some grapes forming on there, but whether yeah, I'd like to see it grow a little bit more. Now this grapevine has just gone absolutely crazy, and by the looks of things I'm going to be getting a nice little crop of grapes off this vine this year. Very nice. And some more tomato plants. These are leeks. I'll be transplanting them soon. And these are my tomato paste plants. Not many seeds, and great for sauces and pastes and whatever you might want to put that into. Now these are a couple of gooseberry bushes I put in last year, and they seem to have settled in. We're going to get quite a few gooseberries off these. I wanted to make this whole hedgerow edible, and so I'm going to put a plum tree in here, I believe, to fill the space up. This is a new lilac I bought this year, and I'm kind of liking that. One of the things I would like to get into is propagating lilacs. So I have this is a white lilac, this is a fancy lilac, and these ones down here, the ones that are more the traditional colour, when they come out they are a much darker bloom, and so yes, they're very easy to propagate. And this one here is a pink lilac. So when they settle in, I am going to be taking cuttings off all of those. And of course what I'm doing down here is lining this with daylilies. I'm a big fan of daylilies, one of my favourites. And again, it's another thing that you can, I'll be able to dig these up in a couple of years' time and split those roots up and have something that I can put on the side of the road for sale. Potatoes are coming along nicely. And now that white dust that you see on the leaf there, I'm going to actually have to retreat these. That is diatomaceous soil, and that's made up from a sort of shell fossil layer from the ocean bed. And anyway, it really is probably one of your better insecticides. Anyway, I'm hoping for a good crop of potatoes, and look at that. There's your potato beetle right in there, look at that. The Colorado beetle. I found a few eggs already, and this is a mating pair, and that's how you deal with them. You just pinch them off and squish them. Pumpkin seeds, they're coming along. I always like to see, the second pair of leaves coming through. When I see those, I'm pretty certain that they are going to make it. And these are acorn squash, Hubbard squash. I picked up from a friend. I had some trouble germinating my acorn squash seeds this year for some reason. Anyway, we've got some in. And of course the onions are doing really, really well. You know, it's one of the things I've never watered my onion patch. They always seem to be able to do their thing and send those roots down and get the moisture out of the garden. Peas, about another 2 weeks before I'm picking peas, at least. But I did clean out this bed and the carrots are now all separated. And this is a bit of an experiment this year. I netted this pole, which was doing almost nothing, and it was really just like a morning glory trellis. But I'm going to be growing some cucumber vines up there this year, and I hope to have a pole of cucumbers. I think these are my robin children that nested here this year. They seem to be completely unafraid. Asparagus is doing well. New bed. I think some of it got maybe a little disturbed in the moving of the soil, and we will have to, well, maybe next year we will get a much better crop. You can see all the stumps there where I've broken off. I've been eating asparagus probably for the last 2 weeks or so. Garlic, I think this is going to be 2-year garlic. I picked this up out of the front garden. This is sort of garlic that I planted years ago, and it just got all kind of clumped up and messy. Well, I separated them this year, and but I think they're not going to be very big. But yeah, they'll be able to be separated and replanted next year. Now, this is my early potatoes, so you can see that they are much more advanced than the other spuds. Like these ones here went in much later date. Now these are some more peppers. Kale, this is all successfully transplanted. Boy, am I ever going to have a lot of potatoes this year. This is the bok choy, and for some reason it seems to have bolted. I thought it was going to be more sort of cabbagey than that, but I guess we can still eat the leaves. And the chard is transplanted well. Nettle bed, chives, sage. No, I got to admit, I'm very pleased with this garden this year, and I've had some time to be able to focus on just, yeah, keeping it in good shape. Just a little bit more garlic. And I think I'm going to have to start my beans indoors too. I don't know what happened there. I put in a whole bunch of beans. I moved the soil around. I couldn't even see the beans. And then someone said that ants will actually eat seeds in the ground, especially if they are fungus growing ants. And now you can see the raspberries are starting to really flower up. Won't be long before we're chowing down on fresh red raspberries. I can't wait. Now here is my orange coloured raspberries, and you can see that they are forming quite well, and boy did they fill in. Now something happened to my cherry tree here. I don't know if you can see that. What I am thinking, I've had no flowers this year, and I believe that these are the buds that will be flowering out. And I think what happened was, just as they were forming, we had a couple of really cold nights. Like it went down to -7 or -8 centigrade, and I think those buds just got damaged. And because the tree seems healthy enough, the leaves are good, and it's got some new growth on there. But those buds ain't producing any cherries this year. Now this is a bit of a surprise plant. This is a blackberry, and it's climbing up here through the cedar, and again it's covered in flowers, so I'm going to be interested to see what it produces, because it'd be kind of nice to train this up the cedar and have that as a sort of a natural stand, and have the two growing together. And there you go. That's my garden. Oh, there's the tarragon right there. This grows up nice and tall, and just kind of fills in a gap there. So that's the garden up until June 8th, and so I'm thinking this is a pretty normal looking garden for this time of year, and it's what you would be expecting to see in your own garden. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and a lot has come along. I'm really pleased with the way the garden's performing this year, and I mean that is actually the upside of the time off, is I got to spend an awful lot of time in my garden, taking care of the weeding and so on and so forth, transplanting and what have you. So that's why things look so good. Now here comes the broken record. Although I'm going back to work, things are not back to normal, especially in the food supply chains, which have been broken, and planting has been set off this year because a lot of migrant workers were not allowed to migrate across the border to help the farmers plant, and so on and so forth. So and of course the weather has been awful in Europe. There've been some really hard frosts. There's been a lot of crops lost, early greens, that kind of stuff. So and in England, oh my God, they are putting out ads now in the government asking people to volunteer to help harvest the food because they can't get it out of the fields and into a supermarket for people to use. So there's still going to be pressure on food, and I would urge everybody to start a little garden. It doesn't have to be huge. This has taken me 10 years to build this garden up, but you should be thinking about supplementing one way or another, sprouting, thinking of alternative methods of getting your protein, because I do believe that over the course of the summer and into the fall, we're going to start hearing of the term the hungry gap. And the hungry gap was it was a period of time between the end of the root vegetables in wintertime and the beginning of the new season, where you could actually eat things from the garden. And you know, here we are, you know, we're into June, well into June, and you know, I'm only just starting to pick a few things now. Certainly none of the root crops, none of the beets are ready for eating, but the leaves, of course, and the lettuce and asparagus and so on and so forth, strawberries, but it's not really what I would call sustaining food. We won't be getting into that until, I would say, at least the end of June to the middle of July. And I'll be starting to dig some early potatoes and the bok choy and the chard and that kind of stuff. I'll be reaping the bounty of that, some small beets and that kind of stuff. But you know, you really have to think ahead. You have to think about not just planting for this season, but for seeding next year and getting you through from, you know, the fall harvest into at least the middle of July. I mean, in Canada here, we have a very short growing season and a very long cold season. Anyway, prepare yourself accordingly, think like a survivor, and plant a few veggies for yourself. Okie dokie, if you've enjoyed this video, please comment, like and subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.